Please sit down. Now, today's brief will be on our operational activities for the second quarter of 2024. And I will start by saying that our resolve is very clear, and this is to destroy the terrorists and dismantle their military capabilities. Now, this is in order that we can create a safer environment for citizens of this country. In line with this resolve, troops are actively fighting simultaneously across different theaters of operation in the country. We are fighting in different forms, and we retain operational flexibility. Our operational flexibility gives us the ability to respond to different events and to project forces according to our strategic needs. For instance, very recently, we have inserted protection of farmers in our operational plan, particularly at this time that we are in the rainy season. This is in order that we can have a bumper harvest so that citizens can have food on their table. We have indeed greatly degraded the terrorists, even though they still are present in several of these theaters of operation. As we have stated previously, it will take time, it will take effort to completely destroy the terrorists. This is because fighting an insurgency is akin to a marathon and not a sprint. And the case of Nigeria is no different. From what we have witnessed in the field, it is safe to say that the terrorists have prioritized their military capability over everything else. This is because as our troops advance and clear areas in which these terrorists are hibernating, we continue to recover weapons, we continue to recover explosives, improvised explosive devices, and other military-related equipment. These are indicative of the priorities of the terrorists. The good news, however, is that we will continue to wipe out the terrorists through our synchronized ground and air operations. As we do that, we shall recover these arms and ammunition just as we have done, and we shall dismantle their military capabilities. It might interest you to know that in the second quarter of this year, troops neutralized 2,245 terrorists, arrested 3,682 suspects, and other criminal elements. Troops also rescued 1,993 kidnapped hostages, most of whom are back with their families now, and we recovered 2,700 and 83 weapons with 64,547 assorted ammunition during the second quarter of 2024. Significantly, we denied the oil theft of an estimated sum of over 10 billion naira in the second quarter of 2024. I will now take the various operations, beginning with the Northeast, where we have Operation Harden K in the Northeast. The troops of Operation Harden K conducted operations, and these operations were deep into the terrorist enclaves in Sambisa Forest, Timbuktu Triangle, the Tumbus, which is close to Lake Chad region, and the operations were targeted at terrorist commanders and their leaders, which were wiped out of the battlefield. We also destroyed several of the terrorist enclaves and their strongholds. Our operations further denied the terrorists the ability to carry out major offensives. This is because we diminished their offensive capability through our aggressive posture. Given this situation, the terrorists are limited to low-level skirmishes and attacks, most of which are on soft targets, as we have seen in very recent times. Accordingly, troops of Operation Harden K during the second quarter of the year 2024 neutralized 857 terrorists. The troops arrested 913 suspects who are related to terrorist activities and rescued 594 kidnapped hostages during the second quarter of 2024. Additionally, the troops of Operation Harden K recorded a total of 4,582 terrorists and their families that surrendered during the second quarter of this year. Furthermore, troops dismantled the military capabilities of these terrorists, as earlier stated, by recovering 559 AK-47 rifles in the second quarter of 2024. We also recovered 151 fabricated rifles, 181 den guns, 157 assorted arms, as well as 13,493 rounds of 7.62mm special ammunition, among other items recovered. The air component of Operation Harden K in the second quarter of 2024 conducted air interdictions to several of the terrorist enclaves in the Northeast. This includes and is not limited to the Mandara Mountains, Timbuktu Triangle, the Tumbus, and several other locations within the Northeast. As a result of the air interdictions, several terrorist enclaves and hideouts were destroyed, killing terrorist leaders, their commanders, their foot soldiers, as well as destroying their logistic dumps. Now, we can cross over to the North Central, where we have Operation Safe Haven. The troops of Operation Safe Haven conducted several offensive operations during the period of the second quarter 2024, and these operations include raids and fighting patrols, and the operations yielded significant successes, which include, and is not limited to, the recovery of arms and ammunition, as well as arrest of violent extremists, kidnappers arrested, gun owners arrested, armed robbers arrested, murderers arrested, impostors arrested, as well as cattle rustlers arrested with the cattle. Additionally, the troops of Operation Safe Haven made fierce contact with violent extremists, terrorists, neutralizing several terrorists and rescuing several kidnapped hostages during the period of the second quarter 2024. The offensive posture of troops secured the release of several of the kidnapped hostages and has significantly curtailed the activities of terrorists and violent extremists operating in the area. Overall, the troops of Operation Safe Haven neutralized 130 violent extremists in the second quarter of 2024. They arrested 544 suspects, and they rescued 277 kidnapped hostages during the period. Furthermore, the troops of Operation Safe Haven recovered 39 AK-47 rifles, 126 assorted ammunitions, and 827 rounds of 7.62 millimeter NATO ammunition, among others. Now, the weapons and ammunition that are recovered is indicative of our dismantling of the military capability of the terrorists. Let's look deeper into the North Central by taking a look at Operation Wild Stroke. The troops of Operation Wild Stroke conducted operations to combat security threats posed by banditry, kidnapping, gun running, and header-farmer clashes. The operations significantly mitigated security challenges in the following states: Benue, Nasarawa, and Taraba states. Now, the key threats faced by troops in this area include banditry by various militia groups, farmer header clashes between header militias and indigents, kidnapping for ransom by suspected header militia, gun running activities by suspected indigents of Benue, Nasarawa, and Taraba states, in which troops of Operation Wild Stroke operate. However, troops' onslaught during the period largely degraded the potency of the bandit groups, even though they remain present within the theater. Furthermore, troops anticipate communal clashes occasioned by the rainy season. Now, I'll say that it has become commonplace for the rainy season to be associated with communal clashes in those areas. and farmer-herder clashes conflict usually is on the increase during the rainy season. And this is as a result of increased encroachment on farmlands. Based on this, troops, while collaborating with other security services, have emplaced measures to minimize resurgence of communal clashes, particularly this year. Additionally, troops will continue to optimize operations against terrorists and their cohorts. Already, operations conducted to strongholds of violent extremists recorded significant victories or achievements. During the second quarter of the year, troops of Operation Wild Stroke neutralized 138 terrorists, arrested 377 suspects, and rescued 204 kidnapped hostages. The troops also recovered 63 AK-47 rifles, 110 assorted arms, as well as 3,563 rounds of 7.62mm special ammunition, among others. It's time to move to the Northwest, where we can take a look at Operation Hardened Daji. Now, the troops of Operation Hardened Daji witnessed several security threats in the second quarter of the year 2024. The threats witnessed by troops of Operation Hardened Daji in the second quarter of 2024 include kidnap for ransom, attack on remote communities, as well as communal clashes. Now, in the face of this, troops sustained offensive operations to destroy and disrupt terrorists across the Northwest region. The troops' activities also instigated rival clashes among the terrorist groups. And what happened as a result of this is that due to the battle of supremacy among the rival terrorist groups, they went for each other's throats, which was a good thing for us. Now, the synergy and the collaboration between security agencies as well as intelligence agencies, particularly in the Northwest, now that I'm speaking about the Northwest, greatly assisted in optimizing operational exploits against terrorists in the Northwest region. Overall, troops of Operation Hardened Daji neutralized 764 terrorists in the second quarter of 2024. The troops also arrested 673 suspects and rescued 592 kidnapped hostages during the second quarter of 2024. The troops of Operation Hardened Daji also recovered 420 AK-47 rifles, 174 assorted arms, among other items recovered during the second quarter of 2024. Now to the activities of the air component of Operation Hardened Daji. The air component of Operation Hardened Daji during the second quarter of the year 2024 conducted air interdictions to terrorist enclaves and camps which include and is not limited to the following locations: Kankara, Zurmi, Dan Musa, Maradum, and Gusau, as well as areas within Katsina and Zamfara states. Now, as a result of this interdiction, several terrorist leaders and their commanders were wiped off the battlefield, and we will continue to wipe them off as we move forward into the next quarter. Still, in the Northwest, let's peep into what is happening with Operation Wild Punch. The troops of Operation Wild Punch intensified their effort against terrorists and violent extremists in the conduct of their operations. Significantly, the offensive operations such as fighting patrols, raids, ambushes, and clearance patrols were conducted to terrorist hideouts and their enclaves. The terrorists, as a result of these operations, were denied freedom of action, with their combat capabilities diminished. Troops of Operation Wild Punch recorded the following in the second quarter of the year 2024. The troops of Operation Wild Punch neutralized 170 terrorists. The troops also arrested 366 suspects, and they rescued 178 kidnapped hostages. The troops of Operation Wild Punch also recovered 60 AK-47 rifles, 88 assorted arms, as well as 2,016 rounds of 7.62 millimeter special ammunition, among others. Now, the air component of Operation Wild Punch conducted airstrikes on terrorist enclaves at the following locations, and these airstrikes are not limited to the mentioned locations. Airstrikes were conducted to Meriga. Airstrikes were conducted to Alawa Forest. Airstrikes were conducted to Kwaki Forest. Airstrikes were conducted to Chiku, Kuduru, Giwa, and several other areas in which terrorists hibernate in Niger and Kaduna states. We can now move to the south-south, where we have Operation Delta Safe. The troops of Operation Delta Safe maintained the momentum against the activities of crude oil theft during the second quarter of the year 2024. The troops continue to fight and destroy illegal refining sites, as well as arrest the perpetrators of oil theft. During the period, troops of Operation Delta Safe neutralized 14 violent extremists and arrested 455 persons involved in crude oil theft. The troops of Operation Delta Safe also denied the oil theft of over 9,200,000 liters of stolen crude oil during the second quarter of the year 2024. The troops of Operation Delta Safe also recovered over 2.8 million liters of AGO, otherwise called diesel. They recovered over 29,000 liters of DPK, otherwise called kerosene, and they recovered over 31,000 liters of PMS, otherwise described as petrol. Furthermore, troops recovered over 2,752 assorted weapons and destroyed 243 wooden boats and recovered 2,752 assorted ammunition while destroying 543 illegal refining sites during the period of the second quarter of 2024. The air component of Operation Delta Save conducted air interdiction to various locations within Operation Delta Save area of responsibilities, and these locations include and not limited to Degema, local government area of Rivers State, and indeed other parts of Niger Delta areas, destroying over 100 illegal refining sites, destroying boats, vehicles, among other equipments recovered and destroyed. Now to the southeast, where we have Operation Udoka. The troops of Operation Udoka conducted rigorous clearance operations across the southeast theater, and these operations were to frustrate the activity of indigenous people of Biafra and their Eastern Security Network cohorts and maintain peace in the region. The operations of troops of Operation Udoka curtailed the activities of the terror group indigenous people of Biafra and their Eastern Security Network, and they being the major cause of insecurity in the southeast region. The other security threats troops were confronted with in the southeast include illegal bunkering, illegal oil theft activities, weapon trafficking, ammunition trafficking, kidnap for ransom, cultism, assassinations, and communal clashes. During the second quarter of the year, the troops of Operation Udoka conducted clearance operations. The troops also conducted raids and other offensive activities, all geared towards tackling the insecurity in the southeast region. Significantly, troops conducted combined operations with other security services and agencies. Troops invaded the fortified indigenous people of Biafra and their Eastern Security Network strongest hideout, located in Moda Valley, which is in Osu local government area of Imo State. Troops invaded and arrested one Monday Oluchi Ugu alias B44 camp. Now, in invading that camp, several things were discovered. Several corpses in shallow graves were exhumed within the vicinity of the camp. Additionally, troops arrested high-profile members of indigenous people of Biafra and their Eastern Security Network. One of such is one Mr. Onwa Oyebuchi, Agu local government area of Enugu State. He and several others are assisting with ongoing investigation. Indeed, they are pointing to us other members and persons that we should arrest, and we are going after them. Furthermore, troops conducted raid on notorious gun runner and weapon fabricator's house. In this case, is identified as Chief Solomon, alias Ogwehi, at Iburutu in Abi local government area in Cross River State. Troops exploited the offensive posture to remarkably diminish the potency of the indigenous people of Biafra and their cohorts in the southeast region. Overall, the troops of Operation Udoka neutralized 180 terrorists and violent extremists, arrested 354 suspects, and rescued 159 kidnapped hostages during the second quarter of the year. Troops also recovered 28 AK-47 rifles, among other recoveries. Now, in summarizing, I will say that while we operate across the various theaters of operations, we are also assessing our actions, adjusting and amending our operations. We are operating according to plan and according to international law, thereby minimizing civilian casualties in our operations. Overall, we will do everything within the bounds of the law to make our nation safe for our citizens. Indeed, we will keep up with the fighting spirit and maintain the stamina in the front lines. For us, we risk our lives to save the lives of our citizens. This is what we do to secure our country. I cannot emphasize this enough. The armed forces is involved in joint operations across the country. Again, we are involved in joint operations across the country. And when you hear joint operations, you will not hear a single service singled out. Because what we are doing is joint. So you asking about hearing a particular service, please note that that service is part of the jointness. Whatever we are doing, we are achieving it together as a joint force, as a single force, representing our nation as an armed forces. So everything I have spoken about that theater of operation includes that service that you have mentioned, please. Please take note of that. And please, all of you, do take note of it in your reporting. When you try to bring out one service over the other, what you're actually doing is you're trying to sow the seed of discord amongst them. So don't do that, please. We are an armed forces, and we are fighting for our country. Report it as such. When it comes to operations, if it comes to every other thing, you can report it according to the service, no problem. But for operational purposes, we are at war, we are one. Now, the armed forces again is operating all across the length and breadth of this country in various theaters of operations. Our operations take different forms. And in the conduct of these operations, we retain operational flexibility. And the operational flexibility that we retain allows us to attend to strategic needs as may arise. In this particular instance, and in answering your question, we have looked into the need to address the issue of protecting our farmers in the farmlands. Protecting them, why? Because we're in rainy season. And we have a situation in the country where it looks like food shortage is around the corner. And we must not allow that to happen. That is very strategic. And as a result of that, we must protect those farmers. We must ensure that they are able to farm so that we can have a bumper harvest afterwards, and so that the citizens at large can have food on their table. So that is it. To speak about the exact plan will be unwise of me to do so here. Take note that even the enemy is watching me right now. Now, furthermore, as to the issue of rescue of hostages which you have commended us for, we thank you for commending the armed forces, but I want to re-emphasize that in the second quarter of this year, we rescued 1,993 kidnapped hostages. Just in the second quarter. And I bet you, if you meet with any one of those hostages that were rescued, they can give their leg and their arm to the armed forces for doing that for them, because they know what they went through. But we don't need the leg and the arm. We are just doing our job, and will continue to do it, and continue to rescue, and continue to destroy and kill the terrorists. I have said it severally, and I'll say it again. The terrorists exist for the sake of war. And for the sake of peace, we will continue to eliminate them mercilessly and take them off the battlefield. Thank you very much. Abuja security. Yes, you mentioned that one of us was killed, sadly killed. That is the downside of it. The upside of it is those that perpetrated the act have been arrested. And the better or the best side of it is we are working at making sure that we prevent people from being killed such that we don't have to go to arrest persons after they've committed the act. This comes in line with what I mentioned earlier, operational flexibility. Our operational flexibility allows us to address issues in line with our strategic needs. So, Abuja, we know what we are doing. Our troops are out there in the field. Our troops are there in the mountains. And we've beefed up intelligence collection and gathering. Now to the southeast and the issue of the indigenous people of Biafra and Eastern Security Network. As I've stated earlier, they've been significantly degraded. Being degraded doesn't mean that they do not exist within the theater. What we have working for us is that we've arrested several of persons who mean something to the organization, either as leaders, commanders, or foot soldiers. And these people that have been arrested are pointing out to us persons that we should pick up as sponsors or whatnot. That is working to our advantage. That is of intelligence value. And that also shows the cowards that they are. Because before we even say what, he's already telling us the whole thing. And we are happy. So whoever we arrest better know that they are involved one way or the other until proven otherwise. If they are not involved, we release them. We take no joy in arresting innocent people. But what we'll continue to do, or continue to say, is if you know something, you say something. This war that we are in is for all of us. If we allow it to linger, it is because we allowed it as a people to linger. We all have a responsibility. You see something, you say something. You've heard of other crimes where you will do something, and before you know it, you just see police at your door. Is the fellow, your neighbor, is the citizen that is calling the police or calling the CEO, this person did this, and we arrest. So we need to develop that culture of reporting. We need to develop it if we want to address our security situation in this country. We need to, for your sake and for the sake of the country. Because where you keep quiet, you don't know, maybe the next one is your own brother or your sister or your family member. So don't keep quiet. Say something. See something, say something. Thank you.